I'm not ashamed of anything I've done. Oh, no, far from it. I think that my publicity, although some of it has been colorful and some of it, as in the case of this Hollywood swimming pool incident, which I'm sure everybody knows about by now, was certainly unwanted and I could have done without. Doris Day passed away at the age of 97, and just days later, a shocking truth emerged. She had a grandson, Ryan Melcher, yet the two had not seen each other for 14 years. Amid the grief, Ryan broke his silence, revealing never-before-told shadows of his legendary grandmother's life. Marriages stained with violence, years battling depression, an incident that kept the family apart for over a decade, and a $22 million swindle by her own husband that drove her into financial crisis. What had Doris Day truly endured? And in the years after the spotlight faded, had she been living in isolation carefully constructed by hidden agendas? Doris Day was born in a working-class neighborhood when America was still under the shadow of the Great Depression. She lived with her mother in hardship, yet carried within her a lively spirit and unwavering belief. From early on, Doris dreamed of becoming a dancer. She practiced relentlessly, but before her fateful trip to Hollywood, a horrific accident occurred. A train slammed into the car she was riding in. Her leg was crushed, and doctors even considered amputation. For a year, she could not walk, enduring relentless physical pain that seemed without end. In those dark months, Doris found an escape in music. Singing became a kind of faith that lifted her from the hospital bed. Her mother, recognizing this gift, found her a vocal coach, and with that, another path opened. At 15, Doris began singing for hire. The pay was only $5 a night at a small Chinese restaurant, but for her, it was an entirely new world. One evening while performing at a local nightclub, Doris caught the eye of band leader Barney Rapp. She was too young to sing in a venue serving alcohol, but Doris didn't hesitate. She lied and said she was 18. The real turning point came on March 15, 1940, when Doris joined Les Brown's band. Yet just before her audition, she was so nervous she vomited backstage. Les Brown encouraged her, saying he had heard her on the radio and knew she was something special. Summoning all her courage, Doris sang Embraceable You. By the end of the song, she not only secured her place in the band, but also found a reason to keep living. But fate had more trials in store. On Valentine's Day 1941, while on tour, Doris received the news that her brother Paul had died in a car crash. That night, she still went on stage. Her voice, weighted with grief, brought the audience to tears. This ability to transform loss into music became one of her most enduring marks on listeners. Her biggest moment with Les Brown's band came in 1945, when they recorded the iconic Sentimental Journey. Few knew, however, that the song's fame was tied to a personal family crisis for Doris. Initially, the record label gave her dull, lifeless songs. Doris refused outright. After a tense argument, she won the right to choose her own track and picked It's Magic. On recording day, Doris's personal life was in turmoil. The night before, she had a fierce argument with her husband, Marty Melcher. The next morning, with puffy eyes and a shaken heart, she stepped into the studio. Rather than postpone, she poured all her pain, anger, and longing into a single take. When the music began, Doris sang each note, each word bursting from a crushed heart. When she finished, the studio fell silent. Some musicians wiped away tears, and the sound engineer was so moved he couldn't speak. The recording was so raw and powerful that Columbia Records decided to release it untouched, every breath, every quiver intact. From that moment, It's Magic became not just a hit, but a testament to the force of true emotion in music. Though famous across America, Doris Day carried a surprising secret: she was paralyzed with fear of live performance. When Secret Love was nominated for Best Original Song at the 1954 Oscars, her appearance was widely expected, but she shocked everyone by refusing. Her exact words: "When they asked me to sing Secret Love at the Oscars, I told them I couldn't. I just couldn't sing in front of those people." Hollywood was stunned. The press called her the most uncooperative star of the year and mockingly awarded her the Sour Apple from the Hollywood Women's Press Club. What the public didn't know was that Doris was already fighting a silent battle. The relentless criticism battered her fragile mental state, plunging her into such deep depression that she would disappear from public life for weeks at a time. Even at her career peak, Doris struggled with panic and fear. In 1952, while filming I'll See You in My Dreams, she became so convinced she was dying of heart disease that she collapsed. Instead of seeking help, she turned to alcohol to numb the pain, maintaining a cheerful facade on camera. The early 1950s were her darkest years. Doris avoided public events, refused interviews, and sometimes broke down on set. While filming Young at Heart 1954, she wept uncontrollably after an emotional scene until Frank Sinatra embraced her and whispered reassurances. She later admitted she felt she was standing on the edge of complete collapse. It wasn't until 1971, nearing 50, that Doris finally sought therapy. For 4 years, she confronted the lifelong anxiety and depression that haunted her. Only then did she find something the spotlight had never given her: true peace. Ironically, secret love. The song that once terrified her later became a quiet anthem for the LGBTQ+ community in the 1960s-70s, a hymn for love kept hidden. When she learned of this, Doris was moved to tears and publicly expressed her support, a rare act of courage for a star of her generation. But panic attacks and inner shadows were only part of the tragedy. Behind the scenes, Doris's life contained even harsher chapters. Violent marriages and the $22 million swindle. Her life took a dark turn at just 17. Against her mother's pleas, she rushed into marriage with Al Jordan, a 23-year-old trombonist with charm but a volatile temper. Only hours after their April 1941 wedding, her mother's warnings came true. That night backstage at a performance, Doris gave a brief thank you kiss on the cheek to a colleague for a small gift. To Jordan, it was proof of betrayal. He dragged his new bride from the theater into the freezing New York street, slammed their hotel room door, and rained down blows and slaps. Violence became routine. Jordan controlled her every move, accused her of infidelity over a glance, and hurled vicious insults. Once, upon seeing her picture on a magazine cover, he slapped her in public. When Doris became pregnant, his obsession peaked. He pressured her into an illegal abortion, and when she refused, beat her so badly she nearly lost the baby. In the 8th month, he hid a gun in the car, drove to a desolate spot, and told her coldly he would kill them both, and then himself. In that moment, with death inches away, Doris used all her calm and quick thinking to soothe him. The crisis passed, but the terror left a permanent scar for the rest of her life. She could not sit in the front seat of a car without trembling. In February 1942, she gave birth to her son Terry, hoping the baby would change Al Jordan. But when he began turning his violence on the child, Doris knew she had to escape. Gathering her last shred of courage, she took Terry, filed for divorce, and closed the first chapter of a nightmare. Her second marriage to saxophonist George Weidler seemed like a new beginning. They met on stage, drawn together by music and long nights under the lights. As a young single mother, Doris was swept up by Weidler's charm and married him in 1946. They moved to Hollywood full of hope. But soon, cracks appeared. Weidler had no interest in being a stepfather and bristled when Doris suggested bringing her mother and son to live with them. As her career began to soar, he withdrew, insecure, then distant. 8 months after the wedding, Weidler delivered the final blow: divorce. He didn't want to be overshadowed by her fame, nor spend his life known as Mr. Doris Day. The shock sent her reeling. She had thought this would be her safe harbor, yet it ended as abruptly as a short song. Divorced in 1949, she returned to Cincinnati with her son, seeking quiet to mend her heart. In 1951, Doris married Martin Melcher, believing she had finally found lasting peace. But the shoulder she thought she could lean on became the sweetest and cruelest trap of her life. Melcher became not only her husband, but also her financial manager, holding total control. Over 17 years, along with lawyer Jerome Rosenthal, he quietly drained every dollar she earned, pouring it into reckless, failing ventures. Trusting completely, Doris had no idea she was walking toward financial ruin. In 1968, Martin